Hello, this is Mr. Bryan coming to you with some instrument information on getting started on the clarinet. So welcome to Mr. Bryan's band. Good to have you. All right, so we're talking about regular standard clarinet, the B flat. So I've got mine here. We'll open it up. Always make sure when you open the top, that is the top, so that when you open the instrument, it just doesn't tumble out on the floor. That could be a major problem. So we do want to show today how to go ahead and get the cork grease set up onto the instrument. So let's go ahead and start that right now. We'll start with our bottom joint. And this is where, of course, the bell will go. So we have our cork grease, and we'll just give it a round on the instrument all the way around. Yours may need a little bit more depending upon how often you play your clarinet. So you put your thumb on this inside and your index finger will smooth the cork grease around. So we'll go ahead and get the bell on, and we place that with a slow turning motion. Usually turn to the right. I'm right-handed. And it's on there and we're set. I can go back into the case, and then we get the upper joint of the instrument, which of course has two corks, and we'll get our cork grease on those. So as I said, mine doesn't need a lot of grease. It's played quite a bit. So I've kept up on this and getting this done. Now we're ready to place this onto the lower part of the instrument. So, I've got this in my left hand, right hand, and we have to make sure that we move the one piece of the instrument up in order to get this on, and then it aligns up right here. It's got to be nice and straight. When you go ahead and put your fingers on the instrument and start moving the keys, if you feel some tension, like it's tight, that means that this alignment here is not correct between the two joints. That part that I showed you was moving up and down. So we can get the barrel on, slow turning motion to the right, and then of course the mouthpiece. At this point, I've placed the clarinet in my lap. We always want to have the clarinet in a horizontal position. We never want to set it on the floor or on a table or anything in the vertical position. So at this point, I'm taking off the ligature, and the reed is going to go into some water before I start working with the mouthpiece. I've mentioned to some of my students about using a small cup. That's because the reed will float in a cup or glass this way, and it may get stuck on the side, and when you get it out, it may damage the tip, which is almost paper thin. So I have an old medicine container. It's plastic. Just place it in there. Only needs to be in there about a minute on each side, the tip and the bottom. So, little cork grease on the mouthpiece. Always put the mouthpiece on the instrument without the metal ligature on there, or the reed, just like this. Okay, you see how it's aligned? With the thumb key on the back. Trying to make sure we can see that good. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and flip over the reed, the bottom end, into the water. That's to make sure that the moisture is continuous throughout the reed and that it will get the best sound for you. So I'm going to wipe off my fingers while I'm waiting. Got some cork grease on them. Let's get a paper towel, wipe them off, and I know it's not been a minute, but we'll go ahead and get the reed out. Important part, of course, your reed's soaking wet. So you get your other hand, get the thumb. You do one pass on the thumb, second pass on the outside, last pass on the inside, and your reed's moist but not soaking wet. So you can put it in your mouth like this while you're getting ready. I don't recommend placing the reed in your mouth to get it moistened because it doesn't moisten consistently through the reed, and then when you go to play it, it's almost like playing a dry reed, that you get a very airy sound. So we're putting the ligature on, and of course the ligature has to come below the ridge on the mouthpiece. On the top part here that we're looking at on the reed, I want to make sure it's kind of hard to see here because of my lighting, that you can see a black line behind the reed of the mouthpiece. Don't get the reed too high, don't get it too low. Now, placing the mouthpiece in your mouth, of course the lip on the bottom, and your teeth can go onto the top of the mouthpiece. Or you could also curve that upper lip under your teeth and play in what is called double lip. I'll demonstrate double lip. Now, placing the teeth onto the mouthpiece. So, it's kind of a personal preference. I can play both ways, and what makes the difference for me is how strong the reed is. As you know, the reeds have different strengths and can be softer or harder. So for me, it's easier to play with the double lip when the reed's a little softer. So when you're placing a mouth cap on, you always want to be very careful not to touch the reed, and it's nice and protected. So I'm going to close my case, and I have a stand that I use for the instrument. Once again, just makes it easy so it's not going to be falling down. All right. Now, let's go to the time when you're done playing with the instrument. We've set it up, just did some couple notes, worked with the embouchure, the way that you hold your lips and your mouth in playing the instrument. Now, cleaning the instrument. Once you're done, it will be have moisture in it, of course, on the very top part, and sometimes for beginners, sometimes there is a little extra moisture that comes through all the way down to the bottom of the instrument, to the complete bottom, to what we call the bell. So, I would suggest for beginners to give it a thorough cleaning from the top to the bottom. So, let's go ahead and start that. So we'll get our case open back up, and I'm going to remove the cap and the reed. And I always clean off the reed same way, same procedure as the first time. So once, twice, third time. You can just set it in the instrument case for a minute, and then we're going to take off the mouthpiece. That can go in there. That can be cleaned last. And now, cleaning the instrument. Of course, there's all kinds of supplies available for cleaning the instrument. Your local music store or online. What this is called is a swab. This one's a cloth fabric, and of course the length to pull it through. This is a weight here in the end. So we'll demonstrate like this. Always go from the larger size to the smaller. So of course the bell is the largest diameter, and you just pull it through. You don't want to get it stuck. It may get stuck so bad you might have to take it to the repair shop, to the instrument mechanic. Now, if someone wants to get creative and try to make their own swab at home, I've done that too. white t-shirt. This one is a little bit longer. And the length to pull it through is a string with a attached to a screw at the bottom, little tape. So let's try this. Oh, it just fell on the floor. Not going to run this through the instrument now, so we'll have to do this on another day. It's dirty. Don't want to get dust on some of my dog's hair, perhaps, into the instrument. So there's another way that beginners can clean the instrument. It's always got to be dried after playing. That's using a paper towel. So much like flute players do when they are getting ready to dry their instrument out, and twirling to make a fine point on the edge of the paper towel. Okay. Put the bottom half back into the open case. And of course the open case is not in the lap, so it could be on a chair sitting next to you, perhaps on the couch. But we really don't want to do a lot of work with the clarinet in the case in our lap. So the part that's going to have the most moisture after the mouthpiece is the barrel. Small part, but we've got to clean it out. So we'll just place this through there, clean it out. And inside here where the tenons go, you can dry that out. Might be just a couple droplets in there. Okay, it's dry, ready to go back in the case. Now with the mouthpiece, you can dip it in a water cup. Now my water cup is very full, so I'd have to be very careful. Usually I would get up, go and dump it out about halfway, and then place the mouthpiece in there. I'm just going to dip it in with the tip. Maybe you can see that. It's sitting on the piano, and I don't want to get the nice finish on the piano damaged, so we can send the swab, paper towel swab, through, and it might not go all the way through. This is a regular standard size paper towel from the kitchen, so we can just get it through about halfway, and that'll be dried out nicely, and place it back in the case. Now, as far as the upper joint, the towel probably is not going to go through there. It's just going to be too difficult. So you can go from the top down and just place it in there, try and dry it the best you can. This is the next area where moisture is coming down. And look at the bottom, there might be some moisture on the tenon. Clean that up. Now you can look at the bottom joint and the bell and see how much drying. Might be some moisture here. And you've got the end of your towel that's still dry. And we can remove our bell now. Place that back in the case for a second. Dry off our tenon. And that should be ready. And then you can look at the bell to see if there got to be any moisture down that reached to the bottom of the bell. And you can look here to dry this area also of the bell. Okay, so that was the drying of the instrument. And now we just need to get our reed back on. It's been drying out. Mouthpiece has been cleaned. Remember, this part you have to be very careful. Put my left thumb holding the reed and gently carefully get the ligature back on. Tighten it up. Put the mouth cap back on. And you're ready to close up your instrument. So, I hope this has been helpful for you. I've got some of my students working online, teaching them band instruments, and just want to make sure that everybody's got the information they need. So, it's Mr. Bryan from Mr. Bryan's Band. Thanks for watching. Look for another episode coming up soon. Have a good day.